I'm going to show you one of the most important plants that you could possibly grow if you live in one of the warmer regions of the world, if you're looking to sustain your family. But the question is, can we grow it in the north? We're going to be looking at the sweet potato, and I'm going to share with you why this is one of the most important things you could possibly grow. Hey everybody, Chad Cruiser here with Health and Homestead. Now, I am not at my property on my homestead right now. I'm on the homestead of one of my very close friends from childhood. His name is Scott Ritzema. He works with Belt of Truth Ministries, and I have the opportunity. I did not grow any sweet potatoes this year. I actually wanted to, but it just didn't work out. I grew potatoes, but not sweet potatoes. And now, we live up in the north. We live slightly below the 45th parallel, which is halfway between the North Pole to the equator. And so we're relatively, that doesn't sound that high. When you're like, oh, only halfway there. But when you get this high, you're like, it is actually relatively high, you know? And so, long story short, often people don't grow sweet potatoes in the north, and the reason is because they don't always do as well. The good news is that there are certain varieties that can grow in the north, and we're also going to tell you at least one thing that you can do to help them have a higher yield when you are up in the north. Now, by the way, if you live in the southern United States or any of the warmer regions of the world where you have a nice long summer, your soil gets very well heated, sweet potatoes are just an incredible food to grow because you get a great yield, and if you store them right, you may be able to save them for a year and be able to have them through the rest of the year. And so this is perfect to be able to have enough calories throughout the season for, like I said, for you and your family to be sustainable. So on top of the fact that sweet potatoes are one of the highest yielding things you could grow, and I didn't mention, they're awesome. They just taste good. I mean, who doesn't like sweet potatoes? If you don't like sweet potatoes, you should learn to like sweet potatoes. They're just really, really good for you. They're one of my absolute favorite foods. And there are often times where I eat them every single day of the week. Now, speaking of that, did you know that one of the longest living groups of people, if you've never heard of the Blue Zones, it's a book by Dan Buettner that talks about the longest living cultures on planet Earth. And there's a few of them. There's the Okinawans, there's the Sardinians, there are a certain group of people from Costa Rica, and then there's a group of people called the Seventh-day Adventists. These are the longest living groups of people on Earth. There's a couple more here and there around planet Earth. They're just not coming to my mind right now. But nevertheless, these different groups of people live longer than the cultures around the world, and so that's why they're known. And one of the things about the Japanese, not the Japanese in general, but historically, these people called the Okinawans, a part of Japan there, when they looked at them, they noticed that these were some of the longest living groups of people, and they're like, hey, what is it? What are they doing? And one of the things they noticed about them is that they ate largely a plant-based diet, but the very center of the Okinawan diet was the Japanese sweet potato. And by the way, what we're going to be harvesting here are not Japanese sweet potato. They're more of the standard American varieties of sweet potatoes. But if you've never eaten a Japanese sweet potato, they're the ones with the purple skin, purple-ish, not totally purple, but purplish skin with the white flesh. And they are unbelievably good. If you haven't eaten them before, and then you do eat them, you're going to feel like you've been betrayed. Why did nobody ever introduce these things to me in my life? And they're just amazing. They're really, really that good. I absolutely love. I love the regular sweet potatoes with the orange flesh too, but there's the purple fleshed ones, and then there's the white fleshed ones, and the white fleshed ones are literally heavenly. They're just fantastic. Very, very sweet. They have a thicker consistency to them, kind of have like a sweet chestnut flavor, I would compare it to, but it's heavenly. It's absolutely fantastic. But once again, back to the Japanese. What about them? So the researchers looked at them, looking at the history of these Okinawans, and they found that 69% of their diet, nearly 70% of their entire diet, of all the food that they consumed, was sweet potatoes. And so this was like a literal staple food to them. The majority of their diet was literally coming from this plant here. And so if you're looking to be healthy, if you're looking to sustain your family, sweet potatoes are one of the best things that you can do. Now, we're going to actually find out, typically different varieties have different lengths of season that you need to grow them. Like the Japanese sweet potato, by the way, they're probably going to, you know, if this video became popular enough, they're gonna sell out of the Japanese sweet potatoes because they have like a 95-degree growing season, so, or not 95-degree, 95-day growing season. So if in that sense that you can grow them in the north, and I haven't tried them yet, I'm going to try them next year, but they're a shorter season variety, and if they grow well in the north, they're just going to take off like crazy because they're just the best sweet potato out there. And but these ones here probably are closer to a 110-day variety, and since these are in a greenhouse that is heated in the evenings, they've actually been in the ground for roughly 150 days, so 5 months. So they've really been in the ground for some time. So we're going to dig them up. We're going to see how they look, and this will give you an idea of will it work for you. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can see in the video here that the black plastic can actually help raise the soil temperature, which the sweet potatoes really, really love. So if you are in the north, that's something to really consider, that if you can do that, either having them in a greenhouse or even within your greenhouse, you can actually heat the soil like we're doing here, or was done here, I should rather say. You can actually do that. So putting down the black plastic is very beneficial to getting a better yield. Even a bit down south of here, it's still beneficial. One of the things they did with the leaves is they used some diatomaceous earth, and that's used to discourage the little creepy crawlies from eating the leaves. And by the way, another thing is that you can actually eat the leaves of the sweet potato. So these, on so many levels, sweet potatoes are just a fantastic food to have in your garden. But let's actually get to our work of harvesting them. So here's the plastic. Now you can imagine if you purchased your slips, or you've saved potatoes and now they're growing again, you can take those slips and you could plant them. Scott, could you point at that little hole right there just to give an idea? So you'd plant it right there in the hole, and there was one there in the past. And then you have the plastic on the ground, and obviously the plant's going to grow up, but it's going to heat that soil very well for you to hopefully increase your yield. And that's it. And so you can see some of the soil on the sides of the plastic just to hold the plastic down. So the sweet potato is growing out of the hole, out of the plastic, and now we're going to cut some of that back so that we can harvest it. Sounds like the rain is starting to come down outside. Oh. And doing this simply enables us to be able to pull the plastic, or else the plastic is actually stuck. So now we're gonna dig out the plant right here. Whoa! Well, this gives us an idea of some of the size of sweet potatoes that you can get. Now, once again, this one we cut, and which is another reason you want to use a fork rather than a shovel. We couldn't find the shovel, and we had to make the video, so we use the shovel anyway. And you're prone to doing things like this, but you can tell these are large sweet potatoes, way up here in the north. And once again, this is a greenhouse, and this is a slightly heated greenhouse. And when I say that, what I mean is, when it gets down to like 30 degrees, they warm it up a little bit. So it's not as if they're keeping this thing at, 60 degrees at night. I mean, it's getting down in the 30s at night. And so I don't know if they're still growing or not. They very well may be. The plants have not died. They're not even really yellowing. But yes, they can be grown. But my question is, can they be grown outside? I'm going to try that next year. Maybe with some row cover, but I'm hoping there's even a way with some of the right varieties, like the Japanese varieties, that I'll be able to actually grow them outside. We're going to find out. If you didn't have the money to have a covering, or times got tough and they just weren't around, what would you use? I'd like to grow things in the north that I can grow without too many additional inputs from the outside. So if you got the inputs, if things are still going well, you can do this. Sweet potato is one of the greatest foods you could possibly grow. But next year I'm going to find out. I'm going to try the Japanese variety, the red Japanese variety, to find out, will it grow up in my neck of the woods on my homestead? I hope so. I really hope it does. And so they're great food, fantastically tasty. Grow some sweet potatoes if you're in the south, but if you are up north, find out if it works in your area. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button. God bless and have a fantastic day.